and welcome to Something Witchy, a Sabrina the Teenage Witch rewatch podcast. I'm Laura Cotter.
And I'm Skye Orchard.
And welcome back for our season 1 finale.
We made it through a whole season.
I know. I think we've officially made it farther than like 40% of the other Sabrina podcasts that existed before this one.
Nice.
If we make it through season 3, I think we'll be officially the longest running one.
We'll be the winners. Love a competition.
And then we can stop.
I think some people have expressed they don't want us to stop like everyone else. I snooped our Reddit.
No, yeah, they want us to keep going. I want to keep going. Most of my strongest screaming moments are going to come in the later seasons, so we have to get through it. I had a really good day yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
It was sports related.
Oh.
Skye looks very confused.
Oh, there was gymnastics yesterday.
There was gymnastics yesterday. And you had did you have a good sports related day yesterday, or was it not good?
We tied for Utah Royals versus Bay FC. Could have been a loss, so take it.
And like for Utah, I don't know the Utah Royals. I don't know if they're good or not. So like, is a tie, like, is that pretty good for them, or is that like mediocre for their normal results?
It's good for us compared to how we started off last year.
Okay. Yeah. So it's the end of the regular season for gymnastics yesterday. It was senior night for Utah, and we had UCLA visiting, which means I got to see Jordan Childs in person, which I've seen her before, but I think this is the first time post-Olympics. Yeah, this is the first time post-Olympics that I've seen her in person. We may have injured Jordan Childs minorly. Not on purpose. I didn't do anything to her. Nobody actually did anything to her, but in her floor routine, right before her final pass, she kind of stumbled. And before that, like, it was beautiful. And I was like, oh no, that just cost her the 10. And then she did her final pass, and on her landing, she landed kind of funny. And I was like, oh no, something's wrong. And then she wasn't in the beam lineup after that. And I was like, oh no, something happened to Jordan. Like, why did they switch her out? And the woman next to us was like, oh, I just saw her walk past with ice on her back.
Ooh.
She's okay. She was limping like a little bit, but I think she's okay. We haven't gotten any statement from UCLA about like a major injury, but on behalf of Utah, I apologize to Jordan Childs that you got injured here. Even a minor injury. That was not our hope. The Utah crowd was actually very nice to UCLA for once. Like, Jordan Childs got the loudest cheers I've heard of any opposing team ever. And Shea Campbell got a ton of applause for her floor routine, which she was robbed. She got scored way too low on that. Utah did win, which Utah was overall the stronger team, but we definitely got some inflation in our scores. We got the highest score of our season, and maybe we shouldn't have, but it's okay. I will still take it. And then immediately after that, so gymnastics ended at like, because it was senior night, it was like 9:20. And then at 10 p.m. was our opening Formula One race of the season. And so like, I drove home through the snow and the rain. I tried to drive as quickly as I could to get to my parents' house so I could watch the race with my dad. And I'm wearing my McLaren shirt because Lando Norris won. And it was the wildest race. We had like 6 people crash out, and we had so many safety car restarts. It was amazing. It was a good sports day yesterday for me. And that doesn't happen often, so I wanted to talk about it.
Laura, talking about sports.
Sports. Do you also like sports? Let us know. What sports do you like? There's intersection between 90s teen sitcoms and sports people. There we go.
You know, some sports cameos. The baseball player, the WWE wrestler, and some kung fu.
We got some sports stuff going on. Harvey plays all the sports, and Libby dates all the sports people. All right, so our question for this episode is, tell me about a time you lost something. Do you want me to go first while you think about yours?
Yes, please.
When I want to say I was around 10, my family took a trip to Pennsylvania to visit some family friends who had moved out there. And we were like driving around, and I had this little purse, and I can't even really remember what it looked like. It was like a little tiny black purse, and I think it had like a sunflower or a daisy on it or something. And because we were just driving around, like we were road tripping it up into Canada or something, we stopped at a Wendy's to have lunch. And I left my little purse behind. And seriously, like 5 minutes after we had left the restaurant, I realized, and we turned around and went back to it, and my purse was gone. None of the workers in the restaurant knew what happened to it or would tell us what had happened to it. It was gone, and I never found it again. And that was like the moment I was like, oh, people aren't always honest and just return things when you lose them. Like, you have to take care of your valuables, because if you lose it, you're probably not going to get it back. And it was kind of like a sad little learning moment for little Laura. And I only lost I think it was like 15 or 20 bucks. So my parents just gave me the money to make me feel better. But yeah, it was a little sad moment. That was something that I lost. Besides my youthful innocence.
Hope in the world.
My naivete.
I lose things all the time because my memory's going.
You lose your memory?
You know? I'm actually considering trying to do like CBT therapy because like my object permanence is just getting worse. And I think it's because of the concussions I've had, like Harvey there, and then just taking Percocet for a year after breaking my back. It definitely messed with how I remember things.
So if I hold up a sheet in front of me right now, are you going to be like, where did Laura go?
Not that bad. It's more like keys, phone, wallet, important things. That's like, I have no clue. And it was 30 seconds ago. So that's fun. And sometimes some of my childhood memories are hard to remember. So I'm going to talk about something recently lost that I hope I find. So I met Orlando Bloom in October, took a little photo with him at New York Comic Con there, and Teenage Skye was a huge Orlando Bloom fan, like convinced I was gonna marry him one day.
As we all
Locker pinned so many Orlando Bloom posters and whatnot. But anyways, in 7th grade, we made spiral bound notebooks of all our writing and stuff, and teacher went around and took photos of us for like the cover of it there. In that photo I'm wearing like my Orlando Bloom Pirates of the Caribbean t-shirt, and then I'm holding up my binder which has a giant picture of him there, and then rest of the cover space, just I love Orlando Bloom, all this stuff there. And I cannot find it. I knew where it was in September because I was gonna post my photo with Orlando along with a photo of, my insane notebook that's Orlando Bloom crazy. I can't find it, so I haven't actually posted about meeting Orlando Bloom because I'm determined to find this. But it was literally in my house. It was where it should be, and now I search for it and I can't find it. And so I don't know if a goblin stole it. Maybe my house is haunted and a ghost stole it. River Song took it because she has to be my number one love. I don't know. So maybe I'll find it. Maybe I won't.
It's probably inside one of your bazillion books.
Maybe. It was with the crafting stuff.
I'm sorry. I hope you find it. Let's have a party, and the goal is to find Skye's picture, and whoever wins gets a prize. And we'll just tear your house apart.
It's quite the party. Come help clean my crafting section.
Actually, I would probably be down for that.
Yeah, I need to figure out something.
Let me go to the container store and get some nice containers. Yeah.
What's the off-brand container store that's cheaper?
Walmart.
Touché.
You ready for our final recap of the season?
Let's do it.
This is season 1, episode 24. Our episode title is Troll Bride. Our description is, when Sabrina is tricked into marrying a troll, only a prince, aka Harvey, can save her. This originally aired on May 16th, 1997. Peter Baldwin is returning as our director, and writers, Nick Bakay and Frank Conniff, your favorite.
Well, I like Salem. I don't like Frank Conniff. Rudy.
It's not going to get better.
No.
Did you recognize the first prince that they talked to?
No.
Well, let me go through the guest list for you. So we have Phil Fondacaro as Roland from things like Willow, Star Wars Return of the Jedi, Passions, Atom Family Reunion, and Quantum Leap. And this is the first of several appearances for him. We have Bryan Cranston as the witch lawyer, who, if you don't recognize, I don't know what rock you're living under, but it might be from Breaking Bad, Malcolm in the Middle, Seinfeld, or Murder, She Wrote.
I was like, I should know this person. Like, I recognize this person, but it did not click. That was Bryan Cranston.
Like, you don't need to know his name immediately, but, like, you should see his face and be like, oh, yeah, I know that dude. We have Corey Buck as the boy prince from Mighty Joe Young, ER, News Radio, and Beverly Hills 90210. And Skye. We have Frank Conniff as Prince Randy.
Maybe I should be looking at the guest list before watching.
No, because then you'd be like, I'm sick. I can't record. You're going to solo record this one. We have Sean Lawton as a fireman. He was also in the Trial by Fury episode, and he'll be in 3 more episodes.
As a firefighter?
No, I just think like as a person, a random person. Robin Krieger is Camilla, and I just included this as the little like byline in her IMDb because I thought it was fun. It says, contrary to popular belief, Robin was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Her East Coast joie de vivre often has many people fooled. Is the East Coast known for their joie de vivre?
I don't know.
I know we have a lot of New Yorker listeners because New York has surpassed Utah as our most listens per state. So, New Yorkers, would you like to weigh in on your joie de vivre?
Alex, text me.
I just thought that was fun, so I included that. She was in things like NCIS Los Angeles, How I Met Your Mother, Modern Family, Malcolm in the Middle, and Family Matters.
Who's Camilla?
She's the wedding planner.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we ever hear her name in the episode, but she's the wedding planner. Then we have Evelyn Furtak as Princess Isis from things like Law and Order SVU, the TV movie Sabrina Goes to Rome, which we will watch in a couple of seasons, and The Big Easy. And then this is the last appearance of Jenny and Mr. Poole.
What? I knew Jenny was going away. She hasn't been in anything but Mr. Poole.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it kind of makes sense that Sabrina would be in a new class next year, so she wouldn't necessarily have the same teacher. Michelle Boudouin would go on to have a few more roles, but her last acting credit is in 2006. And from what I read, it wasn't really her decision to leave Sabrina. She was quoted as saying that they got rid of her because they wanted Sabrina to have a, quote, ethnic friend. But that doesn't actually end up happening in the next season, as you'll see. So it seems like there's a bit of a messy leaving there. And then Paul Feig has gone on to have just an amazing career. He has a few additional acting credits, but he's mostly known as a very prolific producer, including for things like Bridesmaids, The Office, and Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. Are you ready for another depressing fact? This one's actually really sad. So at the end of the episode, it said it's dedicated to Barry Marks, who was one of the writers on Sabrina. He was a friend of Penn Jillette, and a couple of sources I looked at said that they believe he got the job because of Penn. His death was actually the reason Nell Scoville is not going to return as showrunner for next season. So Nell was originally only contracted for the first season. And at this point, so when they're filming the Salem witch trials episode, the last episode, she was already really exhausted. So Viacom offers her an extension. She says it was like pretty generous, but it's not perfect. And I was kind of on the fence about it. So they were doing the Salem witch trials episode the Friday before the table read around 7 p.m. She had sent the writers home except for Barry, and Barry, kind of stuck around and was like, is there anything I can do? She said no, and he left. And then she goes to the set where they shot for another couple hours. She goes home at 11 p.m. Her phone rings and she picks it up, and it's Penn Teller in Las Vegas. He had gotten a call from Barry's girlfriend where she had been talking to Barry, and he suddenly said, ow, that really hurts. And then the line cut out. So his girlfriend was on the phone with him when he went unconscious or passed. So she doesn't know how to call 911 from out of state. She calls Penn, who was calling Barry's friends in LA. Long story short, they learned that Barry had suffered a rupture in his aorta, which is a congenital defect, and he was only 40 when he passed. That was Friday night. On Saturday, she was with her friends and family. On Sunday, she's back to work outlining the Salem witch trial script. On Monday, there's the table read. And that same week, Viacom's like, are you going to accept our offer? Are you going to accept our offer? And she kind of has this moment where she's like, I just watched my dear friend pass away, and I know life is too short. And that's when she decided to walk away from Sabrina. Like tearing up a little bit as I was reading. I was like, that's really rough. But I want to leave with a more positive story about Barry Marks. This is kind of a funny story. So a writer, Peter Churches, and that's Cherches, he has a blog called Word of Mouth. And this story he wrote from May 2010 is called The Barry Marks Toupee Story. And it's about how there was a time when they were out watching a movie. They were chatting. They got in there early. The movie hadn't started yet. They were just talking. And at one point, they started talking about toupees. And Barry takes the position that there's no such thing as a good toupee. They all look terrible. Peter's like, well, that's just because you don't notice the good ones. Like, you'll never know if a toupee is good because you won't notice it. Like, that's the point of it. And so they're going back and forth bickering about this. Eventually, like, the lights go down, the opening credits start. And at that point, there are 4 people sitting in front of them. It was 2 couples, and they left. And Peter's like, oh, what's going on? Why aren't they going to watch the show? Or they just want to see the credits? Like, what's happening? Well, as they're leaving, one of the guys stands up and leans over to Barry and says, next time you feel like talking about toupees, you're going to have to get yourself a set of false teeth. And that's where Barry was like, I had no idea that guy had a toupee on in front of us. And that's where Peter said, you see, he had one of the good ones.
That is a good story to end on there.
I recommend reading the full blog post if you can. He tells it so much better than I do, and it's a really cute story. But yeah, so Barry Marks is not a name we've even talked about yet on this show because he was just kind of like one of the background writers, but clearly he was a fabulous human being who was very missed. So thank you for bringing him to our attention, Sabrina. All right, should we get into the show notes? Is that what I say every time? Show notes time, everybody.
That was peppy.
I'm going to try and switch it up now. In our cold open, Hilda startles a sleeping Salem to talk about how she hasn't had a date in weeks, and he exclaims, Glee Club! Which I was expecting you to call out, Skye, and you didn't.
I'm sorry.
He immediately objects to whatever she's asking him, which they know, but we don't. But he eventually agrees for a price. We cut to a dressed-up Hilda getting Salem back from a firefighter. She offers to thank him with a homemade 7-layer cake made by a single woman.
That needs to go in the cookbook with that exact title.
Oh, I was thinking single woman 7-layer cake. But does that sound like it's a 7-layer cake made out of a single woman?
Ooh, Hilda would do that.
Maybe the made by has to come at the end. The firefighter is happy to accept and goes to put away his ladder. Salem and Hilda celebrate with Salem saying, show me the tuna. Hilda is doing the Cabbage Patch, and then both of them saying, I love the black cat.
Great opening.
It was cute. I liked it. Our outfit intro is Sabrina in a traditional Dutch outfit saying, when I go out, I like to go Dutch. Traditional or stereotypical, I don't know which. She looks like she came out of a cuckoo clock, though. Mr. Poole is talking about the final exam. Everything they covered this semester will be on it, including what mitosis is. And this is our callback. So many more mitosis is. Harvey's with Sabrina in the hallway, complaining about how it's not fair that they only get 3 days to learn a whole semester's worth of biology.
Oh, Harvey.
Neither of them can read Harvey's notes on what mitosis is, which I think is also the issue in the Rudy Kazooie episode, right? That's why they decide to study together, because Harvey can't read his notes then either.
No, he literally wrote down mitosis is and then zoned out.
So it's not been a semester. It's been a year that this child has not figured out what mitosis is.
Yeah.
I just want to side note, my favorite parts of this episode are Libby, Harvey, and Bryan Cranston. Libby kills in this episode, and I don't know why Harvey's career did not absolutely blow up based on this episode alone. He is a gem in this episode. Libby comes up and tells them that they've been voted cutest couple in the sophomore class in the yearbook. And then she tells them about the curse, where every other couple breaks up by the first day of finals. Harvey doesn't believe in curses. They belong in fairy tales with witches. Suddenly, Sabrina doesn't look so sure. And Sabrina has a lot of weird moon art in her locker.
Which she has actually had. It actually seems like there was less, though. I was going to rewind and see.
I do feel like I remember you talking about that before now.
There's a weird notebook page taped in the inside of the locker, not on the door. It looks like someone took Crayola markers and made a 5-year-old level drawing on it. So I don't know if that's from Harvey or something. I can't get a good image of it, but it looked like something a 5-year-old would draw in Crayola markers.
Maybe Sabrina took up babysitting again, and it's from one of her children she's babysitting. At home, Hilda asks Zelda to choke on some bread so she can call her fireman again and go dancing with him. Zelda refuses and is like, don't waste the firefighter's time. And I'm like, Zelda, you're the one who's in love with a firefighter and wants a firefighter so bad. Zelda, you should be on board with this.
Yeah. Firefighter to call her a kitten.
Zelda should have absolutely been on board. Anyway, Zelda refuses, so Hilda asks Sabrina, who gladly accepts and starts choking on the bread before Zelda stops her. Sabrina tells her aunts about the curse, and Hilda immediately freaks out, but Zelda downplays it, telling her that she'll be fine, and her and Harvey aren't going to break up. Sabrina is reassured and leaves to go study, and Hilda confronts Zelda about lying to Sabrina. She knows that curses count double for witches, but Zelda points out there's nothing that Sabrina can do about it, and it's worse knowing.
One more rule of magic.
Is it worse knowing the bad news? If you had terminal cancer, would you want to know or would you not want to know? I've heard people say that they don't go in for their cancer screenings because I don't want to know if I have it. It's scary to know. It's is it worse to know?
Do you want to be mentally prepared, or is it better to be oblivious?
And take care of things and do what you can, but...
Would you have wanted to say, know the election results beforehand?
Well, that's why we have polling to try to know them. The truth is going to come one way or the other. If you can prepare yourself for it coming, even if you can't stop it, maybe you can do things to lessen it or make it more. But then it also becomes is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? If they had told Sabrina, then it would be in her head and then it would happen.
Yeah, it'd sort of be a great mistake where she makes it happen.
The next morning, Sabrina's running late for school and can't find her biology notes. It's not in Salem's litter box because this week it's the sports section. Salem tells her to use a finding spell in her magic book, and she summons a finder of lost things, Roland. Sabrina signs the contract, and Roland gets to work zooming around her room. He finds her lost notes and 50 cents. Roland then asks for his fee, which is anything in the room. He starts looking around Sabrina's room for what he wants to take, but Sabrina asks him to hurry it up. He notices that she's pretty cute. Roland decides he wants Sabrina's hand in marriage. Sabrina protests and points out that she's only 16, to which Roland says he knows she's kind of old, but that's okay. Do we want to spend time talking about this or just assume that everybody's on the same page as us?
I think we can assume.
Okay.
How do trolls age? Also, when do we find out he's a troll? He never says he's a troll.
Maybe she finds out at some point between this and the next scene.
Maybe.
Sabrina leaves through the kitchen to go to school, shouting at her aunts that she doesn't have time to deal with him, but there's a troll in her room and she'll tell them about it later.
And her outfit looks like pajamas. I thought scene prior was her, like, still getting ready, hadn't changed for school, finding biology notes, but nope. That's her outfit.
And I thought it was, so there was like a moment in time, the late 90s, early 2000s, where there was like a real business look to teen fashion that I heavily participated in as I got older. A lot of blazers and cardigans. And it looked like one of those outfits where we're starting to get into like the businessy clubbing type of look. I do understand how they could also look like pajamas given the matchy nature of it all.
Pink, silky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mr. Poole is going over some last-minute information for the test when he's interrupted by Roland knocking on the window in the door. He says he's there to see Sabrina about a personal matter and pulls up a chair at her desktop with Harvey. Sabrina covers by saying that he is an actor from the local Renaissance fair. Mr. Poole tries again to discuss their information and calls on Roland, who offers the answer to how long the large intestine is. Mr. Poole tells Roland that he is wrong, and they start getting into an arguing match. We flip to a scene where Mr. Poole is hiding behind the chalkboard, trying to tell Roland that human beings do not have 4 stomachs. The bell rings, ending class, and Harvey asks who Roland is. Sabrina says it's a funny story, and she'll tell him later, but she's gotta go.
And here we see that the chalkboard is actually just a rolling one, like you had suggested during my confusion of as Wisbridge turns. So we at least have that answered.
Sabrina and Roland are eating lunch at the cafeteria, and Roland is asking her about wedding plans. Sabrina calls Harvey over to come sit with them, and Roland asks who it is. Sabrina explains it's her boyfriend. Roland tells Harvey to get lost, farm boy, and Harvey is confused since he's never been on a farm in his life. Roland climbs on top of the table trying to fight Harvey. He refuses to engage until Roland starts acting like a chicken and asking him if that reminds him of the farm boy. And this was like, I really liked Harvey's acting. He was just like, I'm not going to fight you. And then he was like, you know what? I am going to fight you. Sabrina breaks it up and Harvey again asks her what's going on. She again says it's a funny story and that she'll tell him about it later, but grabs Roland and runs out of the cafeteria. And this is my favorite Libby part of the episode. She just pushes her chair back to talk to Harvey and tells him that this is the curse and he and Sabrina are going down. Like, because Libby doesn't even seem mean about, like, I know it is like undertones of mean, but it's more just like, I'm just telling you facts, dude. Like... Like, she almost plays it like if she's a little bit sad that it's going to happen. Like, there's just a little bit like she's not doing it to be malicious. She's like, this is just how it's going to be.
Can't stop it. It's happening. Good luck.
Sabrina marches Roland into her house and tells him to get inside and no more fighting. He complains about her nagging, but admits that he actually loves it. That was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I hated that line so much. The aunts look on in shock and confusion, surprised that there actually is a troll. Roland makes himself at home and takes a nap on the couch, while Sabrina takes her aunts into the kitchen to explain what's happened. And we enter Roland's dream, where he and Sabrina are happily frolicking through a meadow. Zelda is looking over the contract and says that they'll need to call a lawyer. They can look up a troll specialist in the purple pages. Next, they're greeting somebody at the linen closet door. A lawyer comes out and Sabrina explains that a troll is asking for her hand in marriage. She signed a contract but didn't read it, so he wishes her a nice wedding and starts to leave. Zelda points out that what lawyers do is break legitimate contracts. We flash forward to all of them in the dining room as the lawyer reviews the contract and says that according to this, she is getting married. The lawyer then asks if they mind if he takes off his jacket and pants because he's sweating up a storm. But don't worry, he's wearing a 4-piece suit and he's wearing some nice shorts underneath.
Suit shorts? I'm here for it.
Also, Bryan Cranston does have some nice legs. Harvey shows up at Sabrina's house and he wants to talk. Sabrina glances over at the sofa where Roland is sleeping and asks Harvey to step outside so that they can chat. Harvey wants to know who that was that tried to beat him up in the cafeteria. Sabrina tries to use her line about it being a funny story and she'll tell him later, but he points out that it is later. Sabrina comes up with Roland being a friend of her aunt's. Harvey points out that that's not very funny, and Sabrina says she just didn't tell it right. Harvey still knows Sabrina isn't telling him everything and asks if she wants them to keep secrets from each other. She says no, but when he asks again who Roland is, she still won't tell him. Harvey leaves disappointed. What could Sabrina have told Harvey that he would have believed at this point? Is there an excuse she could have come up with?
An eccentric cousin? I don't know.
But why would he be so set on fighting Harvey?
He's bipolar.
Sabrina goes back inside and wakes up Roland to talk to him, and we get a Glee Club exclamation. Do we think that was Frank Conniff or Nick Bakay's idea?
I'm gonna go with Nick Bakay.
You're just determined to hate Frank Conniff. I hope he comes to like Comic-Con one time and you meet him and he is just the nicest guy.
It's just that Rudy.
Sabrina states that she is not marrying him. He refuses to listen to her, and she reiterates that she is not marrying him. This is not her idea of romance, and even though she and Harvey are fighting right now, they're going to work it out. Roland is creepily interested by the thought of them fighting. Sabrina rejects him again, and he walks upstairs sadly. Roland takes off his hat and puts it on the banister as he says his farewell to Sabrina, and puts on a sad show about how he's still looking for love despite finding all the other things. He steps through the linen closet and is transferred to the other realm. Sabrina notices he left his hat behind, and Salem tells her that she should take it to him as it completes his outfit. Sabrina arrives at a castle and goes through a small door through one of the towers. Roland is pouting and laying on the lounge, and Sabrina apologizes again and tries to leave, but the door is stuck. Roland tells her it's not stuck, it's locked, and she's trapped here forever. Roland is elated. He's a finder, not a loser. Roland is thinking about when he wants to have the wedding. He wants June and Sabrina wants never. He's still talking about the wedding while Sabrina looks for a way out and tells him that he can't keep her here. The answer is still with the lawyer poring over the contract when Salem comes in and tells them that Sabrina left to return the troll's hat an hour ago and hasn't returned. They realize that Sabrina has fallen for a trick.
Salem, being the devious little former wizard now turned kitty cat, was so adamant of, oh, you need to return it, go in, go quickly. Do you think he might have known about the trick and this is how I entertain myself today?
I don't know if he'd be that, well, I mean, I would say I don't know if he'd be that awful, but we've seen him be that awful. Unless Salem is a really good actor, the way he said the line was kind of throwaway, but he also waited an hour to tell them. But again, was that because he was too absorbed in the toys that were on his hamper that he was sitting on? He was too absorbed in his own life. Was it malicious? Was it just selfishness? Was it just not paying attention to anything else? It could be any of those. I do think Salem has a soft spot for Sabrina, so I don't know if he would actively try to get her kidnapped by a troll.
He was tempted to eat her.
But she was tiny then.
Ago. Oh, okay. As long as she's human-sized, he has a soft spot.
But he didn't eat her. The reason he stopped himself from eating her is because he does have a soft spot for her. If he didn't care about her, he would have eaten her. Roland is still discussing wedding details when there's a knock on the door. It's the aunts. They're not there to rescue her, though. They're just there to drop off some school books so that she can study for her finals. They are still working with the lawyer on the contract, though Roland tells them that it's ironclad. He also tells them that they need to leave, though they'll be welcome back once they're family. Sabrina goes to look in her book bag once they leave, and Roland tells her to forget homework because she's his princess now. He zaps her and puts her into a stereotypical fairy tale princess outfit, complete with pink pointy hat. And I 100% expected Salem to be in that book bag. The way they handed it to her, I was like, oh, that's so clever. Give her Salem to keep an eye on her. And no, should have been. The lawyer is walking around the dining room, still in his shorts, looking over the contract. He has been looking for the contract.
And then the lawyer calls Roland, and Roland kidnaps the lawyer.
That would be funny. He found an escape clause for her. Sabrina can be rescued by a prince that she desires. The aunts are excited but realize they don't know any princes. The lawyer offers to set up some interviews. The aunts go through a series of interviews, the first being an older, out-of-shape prince who's more interested in pie than rescuing Sabrina, aka Frank Conniff. The next is a warrior princess who is by far the most qualified, but unfortunately she still can't rescue Sabrina because she's a woman.
Such 90s thinking.
It's fairy tale thinking. It's in the books. It's in troll law. There's no DEI in troll law. Oh my gosh, we're living under troll law.
Oh.
Oh, you have to laugh, otherwise you'll cry. The last is a small child who starts crying that he doesn't want to die. I like when they're like, do you want your mom? Should we call the queen? Once all the prince candidates are gone, Harvey comes back to the house. He's come to reconcile with Sabrina and tell her that he accepts whatever weird situation she's in. He sadly leaves, but Zelda suddenly stops him and has him come inside. She notices that the back of his jacket says the Termite King. Harvey is embarrassed to admit that that's his father. Zelda puts it together that that would make Harvey the Termite Prince. He asks him to wait for a moment while she consults with the lawyer. The lawyer confirms that that will work, and now they just need to deal with the fact that Harvey is mortal. Hilda enthusiastically says that they have all of the ingredients for a memory loss potion. The way Zelda's like, do we have the ingredients? And Hilda's like, we sure do!
What's Hilda up to?
What is Hilda doing? Why does she know that off the top of her head? Why is she so excited about it? Hey, Hilda. Sabrina is working on her homework while Roland and the wedding planner start talking about wedding details, including having garlands of flowers in both of their hair. Sabrina snaps at them that they should just get married, and Roland comforts her by saying he won't put her through all of this stress. Instead, he'll move the wedding up to tomorrow. Sabrina runs to the window and cries for help. Harvey is in Sabrina's living room drinking a smoking potion out of a chalice with, again, another large fake jewel on it, with the aunts and the lawyer sitting on the couch to explain to him about what's going on. I did like where he's like, I'm sitting in front of a man with no pants. How much more open-minded can I be? So I love Harvey so much in this episode. His one-liners are just amazing. They explain that Sabrina is being held captive by a troll and only a prince that she loves can save her. Harvey tries to be calm and says, that's all, and then nervously drinks some more of the potion. They take him to the linen closet and explain he has to go through that to start the quest. But first, Hilda changes his clothes to that of a more princely attire. Harvey is disgusted and asks if he has to dress like this forever. Zelda assures him it's just until he vanquishes the troll, and he whines about how he couldn't have vanquished the troll in pants.
Technically still wearing pants, just with hose underneath.
Harvey is transported to Roland's castle and calls for Sabrina. Sabrina hears him up in the tower. Harvey tries the door but finds that it's locked. Sabrina runs to the window and calls down to him. Harvey explains he's there to vanquish the troll but can't get in. Sabrina thinks of fairy tale ways to help and zaps her hair to grow extremely long.
Which the world record for hair length is 8 feet 5.3 inches there. Also, yeah, she's trying to think in fairy tale terms, but if I were in Sabrina's spot there, I would magic one of those bouncy things that firefighters sometimes have for people to fall onto and just tumble out the window and be my own prince.
But it wouldn't. That still doesn't count though, because he hasn't vanquished the troll. So the contract would still be in place.
She can vanquish the troll with her words and save herself.
Harvey uses her hair to climb up the tower. Once reunited, Sabrina guesses that this means Harvey knows all about her life. He admits that her aunts told him. Just then, they hear Roland coming. Sabrina has Harvey hide behind the curtains and zaps her hair back to normal length. Roland comes in holding a blender that the 3 Billy Goat Scruffs sent them. Roland immediately spots Harvey behind the curtain, and Harvey and Roland get into a sword fight.
Little sword corner here, because it's medieval stuff. Harvey has a standard rapier, while Roland has a long sword with the knuckle bow guard as the cross guard there. And even though he has that knuckle bow guard, you'll notice that during points of the fight, his hand is actually, because he has to use it double-handed, is actually above the knuckle guard at some points to hold the sword, and so technically holding part of the blade at that point to swing it around.
Sword Facts with Skye.
Sword facts. The choreography for that sword fight left a bit to be desired.
I mean...
Yeah.
For some reason, Sabrina watches the sword fight from the window rather than following them down the stairs and out the door, and just as Harvey is about to stab Roland, Roland disappears. He reappears and they recommence fighting. Sabrina grabs her school books and drops them from the window to help Harvey, but Sabrina has some bad aim. Roland knocks Harvey's sword out of his hand and then trips him onto the ground. Just as Roland is about to stab Harvey, Sabrina throws her last textbook down, hitting Roland and knocking him out. She finally runs downstairs to join Harvey outside. Roland comes to and asks what happened. Sabrina tells him to consider himself vanquished. Sabrina and Harvey frolic through a meadow reminiscent of Roland's earlier dream, but her pointy hat is gone and has been replaced with a flower crown like in that dream.
And Harvey's rapier has disappeared, and actually Roland's had disappeared too when you look at the ground right after that scene. Sword facts. Skye.
Sword facts. I need like a dun-dun. Sword facts. Sword facts. Sabrina suddenly stops frolicking and points out that they have a biology test tomorrow. They run off to start studying. Sabrina and Harvey return to the aunt's house. Sabrina is glad that Harvey finally knows everything about her life and about her and her aunts being witches. Hilda says, unfortunately, it's only for 15 more seconds until the memory spell erases it. With his last few seconds, Harvey says he always knew there was something magical about Sabrina. He stops mid-sentence and we hear a magical twinkle. He asks Sabrina what he was saying, and Sabrina covers by saying he was telling her what mitosis is.
And once again, how many times has this boy's memory been messed up, specifically by Sabrina and her aunts, on top of all the sports injuries?
Or Harvey. The lawyer is with Roland, having him sign several pages of a contract. Sabrina is now free to marry whoever she wishes, and Roland gets her clock radio. He admits he didn't really want it, he just wanted to hurt her. Libby confronts Harvey and Sabrina in the hallway the next day. It's the first day of finals, and they're still holding hands. How did they break the curse? Sabrina says it's a funny story, and she'll tell her about it later. Mr. Poole hands out the test, and Harvey and Sabrina exchange a few last good luck words. Sabrina tells him not to forget what mitosis is. Mr. Poole interrupts them and tells them to begin the test. Sabrina finishes the process of cell division. In the end tag, the aunts go into Sabrina's room holding something behind their backs. They have a surprise for her. Since she did so well in her finals, they're taking her on an around-the-world tour only available to witches who ace their biology finals and their relatives. The aunts put on bullfighter hats and zap them all away with an ole for their first stop to Spain. Salem starts crying at being left behind until Sabrina zaps back into her room and grabs him. And that is the end of the season 1.
Wow, wow, wow.
You don't have a lot to say in that one.
I had some sword facts.
You did have some sword facts. Sword facts. I don't love the character of Roland.
Yeah.
Phil Fondacaro does a really good job.
And he returns as Roland
multiple times. It becomes a running thing. He always calls Harvey farm boy. He's always after Sabrina's hand. That part's a little creepy. If you can take yourself out of it, out of that part of it, it's fun and a little silly, but it is hard to, some of these lines were rough to get past. I feel like there's a way we could have done this where he's like, oh, he's still going to marry her, but he's going to wait till she's like 18 or 21, and he's just going to hold her captive until then, which is still terrible, but a little less creepy.
You know, there's no DEI in troll law. Maybe there's no women's rights in troll law either.
What's the age of consent under troll law? Especially if 16 is a little old.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we have some fun stuff planned before we get into season 2. I'm not going to talk about all of it because we're still finalizing some details, but we're going to take a little bit of a break to allow us to build up a bit of a buffer of episodes again because we are kind of close on this deadline.
We sure are. Makes my anxiety peak.
We will be back for season 2, episode 1, the title of which is Sabrina Gets Her License, Part 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Going into parts episodes?
Do we want to continue on the Skye guessing game for season 2, or do we want to put it to bed unless it's an actual interesting, weird title?
You don't like my guesses?
I don't want to put you on the spot or make you feel pressure. I want to make sure you're okay with the guessing.
All the time.
I'm just saying if the bit has overplayed at the time or if we're still committing to it.
I'm fine with it. People can decide.
I like it. It's a very memorable episode for me. Next season is going to be wild, and it will have like an arc throughout the whole season, which is nice. This one kind of had one, not really. Like
growing pains. It's the
figuring out who you are.
Introduction to what the series is.
Season 2 is where the continuity starts to break down, and there's going to be some moments where you're like, how does any of this work?
The continuity starts to break down?
It starts to get worse.
Oh, great. Because my sanity wasn't questioned at all in this season.
It's okay through parts of it. The end of the season is definitely like, everybody who's watched the season 2 finale has so many questions. Nope, that's season 3. Season 3. We're good. We're okay. Season 2 is okay still.
Season 2 is okay, folks.
I mean, it's like, see, now I'm trying to remember what all happens in season 2.
I think some of our AI or our non-AI titles came from both season 2 and season 3, right?
Yeah. I try to stick to those two.
And it's the same like 22-ish, 24-ish episodes?
Yep. We'll have a new friend. We'll have some new school people. All right. So do you want to guess what Sabrina Gets Her License Part 1 will be about?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't think she's going to get a driver's license. It just doesn't seem Sabrina-ish as far as mortal cars there. It's already driving around a vacuum. and has been pulled over and didn't get a ticket for not having a license, so it's not vacuum related there. I'm assuming at the start of season 2, it'll be a new school year. Sabrina's turning 17 there. So is 16-year-old, you get your magic and then you're on probation, and then you have to get your actual license for witchcraft at that point. And she's not going to be great at if there's a test because she still doesn't know the finger safety, and I feel like that should be what's taught while you're on probation. Or not probation, like permit, whatever you do before you get your driver's license there. That's why it's going to be part 1 and part 2, because Sabrina's going to accidentally turn people into things. Hilda's going to try and eat people, and yeah.
That is a pretty good guess.
Thank you.
In the meantime, please listen to our interim episodes. They'll still be fun. We have stuff planned. It's going to be awesome. And like, share, rate, and subscribe this podcast, our socials. You can email us at somethingwitchypod@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at somethingwitchypod and TikTok at something.witchy.pod and Facebook. And apparently Threads. We have a Threads. I don't ever post on there, but we have a Threads.
And you mock me for not posting on TikTok. I have more TikToks, I'm sure, than Threads.
I have 3 to be in charge of.
Touche. You're marketing, so you made your bed, sleep in it.
Until next time.
Stay magical.